Hi there, welcome in everyone. I'm Lynn Jarman Johnson with Consumers Credit Union, and today we launch a very special three-part series about care. It's a four-letter word for this year, isn't it? Yes, that needs to be our number one four-letter word. We're finding ways to cope, heal, and move forward after 12 months of, well, you know what it's been like. February, that's right now, 23rd, self-care. That's what we're going to focus on today. We have a wonderful panel I'll introduce in a second. On March 2nd, next week, we're talking about team care, how to improve your internal and external teams. Now, that could be family members, too, so that's exciting. And then finally, community care on March 9th, why our community is a part of what we need to do together to make sure that care becomes that four-letter word that transcends for everybody. And these will be on Tuesdays from 11:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. Thanks again for joining us. And now let me introduce you to our panel about self-care. I'll tell you what, if you are like me, I think in March last year, all of a sudden you kind of closed your eyes and you opened them, and if you didn't feel a little bit of panic, I would be surprised. I think it still kind of resonates somewhere like in the back of us, what's going to happen with this pandemic. Today, we're really focusing on your own personal needs to keep you strong, the energy that you need for success, listening skills, and obviously financial health with Consumers Credit Union. So let's introduce you to the panel. We have Bonnie Woodrick, CEO of Love Heals, very dear friend of mine, and she is just fascinating in her conversations of really opening up the conversations. I understand. Love Heals, and we're going to focus on mental, physical fatigue in a moment. Dr. Nicolette Dobson. Nicolette is a chiropractor. She is also a wonderful business partner here at Consumers Credit Union, and she owns Custom Chiropractic. And then Amy Ritzma is another beautiful partner that we have with On-Site Wellness, and she's the co-owner of On-Site Wellness and really has lots to say about helping us as individuals get through this together. And finally, Scott Dobson is our Consumers at Work manager. He goes into all, sizes are of no import, right, Scott? Companies big and small to help with financial education and wellness, which is something that truly has been stressful, and we know what stress does. Well, let's start off with really what has been happening since COVID started, and that is signs of mental and physical fatigue. Amy, I'm going to start with you. If you can help us, what is it, should we be concerned about when all of a sudden we feel just overwhelmed?
Honestly, I had just this morning an email from an HR person that I know, and she said, I am so burned out right now. That's literally what was in her email to me. She's like, I can't take on anything else. I can't do this. And so I think we're all really starting to feel this heaviness of I can't do anymore. And so I really think that, are you tired? Are you just not real motivated anymore? Are you having a hard time, just focusing? Just to really think hard about how are you feeling? Because you have to realize where you're at and what you can handle. And if you just be self-aware. I mean, that's really what I think. Tired, feeling more stressed, all those things, right?
Do you agree? Is it something that really is a day-to-day kind of check your pulse on how you're feeling that day?
I can just comment on the mental fatigue and the causes of that. I think that we all get stressed out knowing that we have to do these Zoom calls. We are not used to looking at ourselves the whole time that we're talking. And then I find that I'm getting very distracted by whether is it the dog, maybe the mailman's coming up to the door, somebody can open my office door. All of those things cause a mental fatigue and strain that we're not used to. And then not to mention, if your kids are at home and you're trying to work and do Zooms and concentrate, it is very, very draining. So what do we do, right? I mean, we need to take breaks. We need to take care of ourselves. But I also think that it's really important that we recognize emotional fatigue. How are you feeling emotionally? Are you crying at the end of the day? Are you becoming depressed? Are you having trouble sleeping? All of those things that we really need to be aware of before we can even begin to fight the fatigue.
Well, and I think that brings up a good question, Bonnie. You just mentioned fight the fatigue. And is this something that we truly should look at and take steps to try to say, okay, this is how I'm feeling, so I should be able to do these 3 things that might help me get through this moment of anxiety?
Yes. So recognizing, right? Let's recognize that, number one, we feel this fatigue. And what is that fatigue causing? It's causing perhaps depression. What are we going to do to fight depression? Or sadness. We have to get up. We have to move. We have to take breaks. We have to eat a proper diet. Food nourishes our brain just as it does our physical body, and we have to get enough sleep.
Well, I'm going to actually run into the next question then, Bonnie, because you mentioned sadness and depression. And I think right now the levels of sadness and depression are so real for everyone, people that you cannot see, the worries that you have of day to day, the long-term worries of when will life get back to normal. What is the difference between depression and sadness?
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Lynn. There's so many things that are creating depression. And so the difference between depression and sadness is, sadness occurs in all of us, right? And I kind of refer sadness to like disappointments. We get disappointed. Maybe we didn't get that job. Maybe we didn't get the promotion. Maybe we didn't make the sports team. All of those things that kind of make us sad and disappointed. But if we have feelings of sadness that last for an extended period of time and we can't find joy in between those feelings, that is depression. And depression is the #1 mental health illness in the country. Depression is found in over 90% of all suicides, whether it's diagnosed or undiagnosed. So there's a huge difference, but I want you to know that depression is treatable. And if you acknowledge it, and if you start self-medicating with drugs and alcohol, you start becoming defiant, or you're noticing these in someone, reach out and give the support that's needed.
I listened to a really good podcast that focused from Pine Rest that focused on the fact that it's very important to do 2 things. If you hear or see someone acting so much differently, it's okay to ask them, are you okay? And I think that was something that I think some people feel a little bit reticent about, like, should I get involved in something that maybe it's not my business? And the other component is, if you're feeling that way, the opposite is true. Tell the people that you are close to or working with. Do you agree with that? That is just critical. Let people know.
Absolutely. That one of the #1 myths when it comes to talking to someone about suicidal thoughts and suicidal actions is if talking about it is going to bring those thoughts to their head. That's not true. Talking about it can actually save their lives. And don't be afraid to ask them, do you have a plan? There comes such a sense of relief to someone that has those struggles to know that someone cares and that someone wants to help them through.
When you're talking about the body, and we just talked about the brain a little bit, we also have to really talk about sleep, which you kind of giggle at, right? Everybody says you got to get 8 hours of sleep. And then people who say, oh, I do naps. And people who say, well, I can work on 4 hours and I'm perfect. But, studies have shown that the importance of sleep is absolutely critical to what we just talked about. Sadness, feeling anxious, not getting enough sleep. Dr. Dobson, are you seeing in your patients who come to you that discussion opens up a little bit about whole health, body, and sleep?
Sleep is one of those things that if you think back, how many times we're like, I don't need a lot of sleep. I can do all these things. We're like superhumans, right? We don't need sleep. I can get away with 3 hours, 4 hours. And, I do think one thing, especially now, that is so important there are so many benefits of sleep. We could go on and on. We could have a whole entire webinar about sleep, right? But when we think about sleep right now, there are so many things that are important about it. The time that our body rejuvenates. So if we don't give our body enough time to restore itself, then we're starting the next day in a depletion mode. So some of the key things right now is it boosts our immune system. I don't know about you, but I don't really want to get sick right now. I want to keep my immune system healthy. We're all under undue stress right now. So sleep's going to help us there. We talk about that mental burnout and all of that kind of stuff. So the productivity side of things, and I'm not just talking about work productivity, I'm talking about just functioning during the day, right? Feeling like you don't need to take that 2 p.m. nap, right? As much as that siesta is amazing. And then, there's a big joke out there about the COVID-19 as far as weight gain goes, but I think there's some truth to that. We're sitting so much more than we used to, right? I know for me, I used to be out and about, even though I had an office. I was out, I was going from meeting to meeting. I was moving a whole lot more than I am working from home. And so, that prevention of weight gain, and who doesn't want to be in a better mood? I mean, Bonnie was just talking about that sadness piece. We've all had that. We've had these ups and downs of good and bad days. But that good night's sleep is really going to help us try to conquer that sadness potentially and help us with our mood. And the sunshine today, of course, doesn't, that's obviously
always helps.
We'll throw that in. It is a tough time in Michigan, right? I think I just read we've had 19% possible sunshine in February. That gets hard. That gets really hard. So, these are just 5 reasons. There are plenty more, but I think these are key for the times we're in right now.
Well, I will tell you that here we are on a webinar, and so we're looking at screens, and our awesome audience is looking at screens. I think we can all say, if you have done this, if you've seen the video of the lawyer who was addressing a judge as a cat.
That was really funny, by the way. That made my day. I don't know.
That's the way to totally address Zoom fatigue right there. Just everybody become a cat. But seriously, it is. There are days that I have woke up and I have looked at my calendar and I have 10 Zoom or web meetings, and I personally decide, am I going on camera for every one of them? Because it truly is an impact of how your brain functions, I think. Bonnie, you mentioned it really quickly. Can you address that, Bonnie, in the sense of what you have seen in your own personal life?
The Zoom fatigue is just so real, and I think that we're just not used to it. I have to pay so much close attention to each one of you to see, to get my cue of when I go or when I don't go, or, if I can't hear, I'm like, here, and then I'm like, why is Maddie slamming the door in the refrigerator door? And why did she put the dryer going, which is against my wall, Then I'm thinking, all of that, tenses you up and gets you to that, which adds to that, oh, gosh, I'm so nervous to have to go on a Zoom today. So it really just adds to that, not only both stress that creates the fatigue.
So, Amy, with On-Site Wellness, I know that you have a lot of companies that come to you to say, hey, what can we do to help our employees succeed?
Right. So I think they'll be sharing a link in the chat, I believe, just back to a blog that we had put out to our clients and to anybody else who would be interested in Zoom, because it is real. And I think none of us really knew what it was until we all had to do it, right? I don't know. Is this like the word? No, what was the word? You're on mute. The word of the year or something. So you're on mute. I should wear a t-shirt. It's just kind of become a big joke, but you said it, Lynn. It's like you look at your calendar and you're like, I can't do all these. Like, I literally can't do all these. And it's so important you do have some control over your schedule, right? So I know for me personally, I look at my calendar if somebody's trying to set up a meeting with me, and I will be like, nope, there's 4 or 5 that day. I can't do any more than that. Or I suggest we do a phone call. So you'll see some of these tips. There's 10 of them on your screen, but taking breaks. I know for us and our team, we have switched to 50-minute meetings because that gives everybody that 10 minutes. We're like, please try to hold to this. So if you are doing internal meetings, giving your folks that 10 minutes between meetings to get up, use the restroom, get a new cup of coffee, grab a snack, whatever, just stretch your legs, move around, right? Try to avoid those back-to-back meetings if you can. You also mentioned it, Lynn, turn your camera off. I mean, if it's not a meeting, you don't have to, or turn it on when it's your turn and just explain to people, you know what, I'm going to turn my camera off for a while, but I'm listening, I'm here, I'm participating, I need a little break. And I think Bonnie mentioned just looking at yourself is so exhausting. And then I really do try to keep, if I see that I have a hole in my calendar where I don't have a lot of meetings, I literally will try to hold that day and not try to add any unless I have to. I think the self-view is another way. You can have your camera on, but not look at yourself, right? I think we get obsessed about, how's my hair look? And is my shirt right? And it's really silly because we don't think about that stuff when we're in normal meetings. So there's just some new things and some tricks. I would encourage you to try a few of them. Walking meetings are great. I know I use those a lot in the spring and summer. When I had to listen to webinars, I just hit the sidewalk and I would listen on my phone. And it was a great way to take a break, get my steps in, and get the information that I needed. So.
And Amy, you bring up a really good point, and that is moving and making sure that you move. I know that there was a brief period of time at the beginning of COVID that when I look back on it, I'm scared that I got into such a sedentary lifestyle. And if you have been doing that yourself, it is never too late to start moving, even if that is just getting up and walking around. Scott, when you look at it, you're a very healthy person. Consumers is a elite company for best and brightest of wellness. How important is it that we are constantly thinking about how we're moving our bodies during the day?
Yeah, Nikki and I, of course, talked about this because we knew we were going to be on the meeting, and I promised her I'd set her up and her Zoom would be great. So I'm already in trouble, but that's okay. We'll get over that. But I could say I'm married to a chiropractor, and she's concerned about her health, and I know that I should be healthy, and I do lots of healthy stuff. But I think I'm as guilty as everyone else, especially when this all started, of just trying to figure things out. And for me, I think what Nicolette taught me was have an accountability partner to help you do the right thing. So we belong to a gym last year, and we could go to the gym and work out, and we had a guy that, so we did our thing, but that all ended, and I didn't have an accountability partner anymore, or the motivation to go work out, even though I knew I should, I could find something else to do. I was at home doing 9 Zoom meetings. I'm like, I'm not going to work out now. I have another meeting. But really having Nicolette as my accountability partner and say, hey, we're going to buy the Beachbody app, and we're going to work out in our basement 4 days a week. And if I'm feeling like I shouldn't do it, I have that accountability partner to say, come on, let's just get through it and get it done. So I think without that, it obviously doesn't have to be your spouse, but if you can find someone that says, hey, we should be doing something, let's walk 4 days a week, let's meet, let's do something, I think that can really help people.
And the piece, it's talking about TextNet. Now I'm going to show you guys something because it's changed my life. Can you see it? So it moves, okay? This is my phone, and one of the things that Dr. Nicolette Dodson talks about is TextNet, because you're constantly going like this, and this back here becomes a really bad knot. So I have purchased, I think it was $11 on Amazon, and it moves and it goes sideways, and I then can have it up, so my neck, and right now I have it so I'm like straight on, and my neck's not down. So there's a good suggestion for anybody, is always just kind of think of how your head is while you're communicating. What is your camera on? You know, your computer. You might have to lift it up, and if you lift it up, it changes how you are working, you know? Look at that. See? Isn't that cool? So that's what TextNext's all about. You guys can do it too. We just talked a little bit about setting up your office environment. So let's talk about that a little bit, Amy. Go ahead and tell us a little bit about how people should set up their work environment or their environment at home, since they're home a lot right now.
Yeah, so I'm sure Nicolette could do a much better job at this than I could, but it is definitely something that's important. And I think, Lynn, you hit on it. It's like, what's around you and how is everything set up? So, you know, I know for myself, my internet bandwidth in my house was not great when we first did this at home thing. So I had to like sit at my dining room table to get enough bandwidth to get this video calling stuff to work. And let me tell you, sitting on a hard bench at a dining room table is not great for your back over the long haul, right? So, you know, how do you fix that problem? You got to remedy those things. I know I was just talking to somebody the other day about I want to get one of those things that puts my laptop up higher so that I'm looking and I'm not looking down so much at my computer. I need to get some things that are going to help me with that. But, you know, I think, again, it's like, where are you feeling those aches and pains when you wake up in the morning? Because that's probably from that use of how are you sitting. And I love these pictures. It kind of goes back to that TextNext thing, too, as well. It's like, are we always hunched over? Are we always looking down? You know, take some time to sit up straight and pull those shoulders back. You'll be amazed at how you're like, oh, wow, I didn't even realize I was bending over, right? So making sure your feet are on the floor, is your keyboard correct, is your screen at eye view so you are not looking down or even too far up. I think some people put their screen so high up that they're looking the opposite. And comfortable chairs are so important. So if you're still working on a dining room chair at home, I highly recommend maybe investing in something that's going to give you a little bit more support on a, you know, as you sit all day. And not everybody's super lucky to have that stand-up desk at home. But if you do, to have that ability to stand once in a while as you work, we actually just had an employee. We got on our team meeting and she was walking and she had bought herself one of those treadmills for underneath her desk. And we had a meeting in the morning and we had a meeting in the afternoon. She was at 14,000 steps. I'm like, well, okay, thanks for making us all look bad. But, you know, it's do what you have to do. But I think it's really key to look at your environment around you and really pay attention and make sure that you're in good shape. But like I said, I think, again, to get Nicolette on, you know, a podcast to talk specifically about how to set up your work environment, it can have really great long-term effects if you set it up correctly.
Bonnie, really quickly, I'm looking at your setup right now, and it looks to me like you've been very conscientious. Number one, about I understand Love Heals. It's a beautiful atmosphere back there, but also how you're sitting and what you have. Can you tell us a little bit about that and how your posture you think about during the day?
Yeah, well, I felt with someone that was diagnosed with COVID that is a long hauler with COVID. I think I spent more of 2020 lying down than I did sitting up. So it's really important to me that I get and that I create my office environment of someplace that makes me feel good and makes me happy. So I actually put a folding table up so I could see the pretty wallpaper instead of seeing my door. And I love my chair because I can prop pillows behind it. I can sit back and relax. And I love the swivel part. It probably drives people nuts, but I'm moving somewhat. And what you can't see is I do have under my desk a desk cycle. And I can sit and I can be cycling right now as we talk. The other thing, though, in our work environment, I think it's really, really important that we encourage our coworkers and our friends and our family to get out and move with us. So, and I understand we host a weekly Sunday walk where we meet at 10 o'clock in the morning, and we get up, we get out and walk for the health of it. And just recently, we just started a week ago, 200 in 100. We have a goal of walking 200 miles in 100 days. And so every day we post encouragement, we post pictures, and our physical and our mental health go so hand in hand. It's so important that we do the physical because it only helps our mental.
Oh, Bonnie, that is wonderful. I know that Dr. Dodson had provided something very similar in the sense of what you talked about with your home environment, and that is really thinking about how you are set up in your house and making sure that those physical routines that Bonnie's talking about, that accountability that Scott talked about, making sure that we build those physical routines that are so important. Can you tell us a little bit, Scott, about what if you wake up and you don't feel like wanting to have that physical routine? I know there's a slide that Dr. Dodson gave us, if we could see that a second, that showcases how sometimes we're doing things, and it may be based on we're not thinking about trying to set up something so we're feeling better while we're working. Those tablets, those smartphones, physical exercise. Are we upright? Are we confident? Scott, you wake up sometimes and just go, I just don't feel like it. And then all of a sudden you slouch a little, don't you?
Yep. And we all do that. I mean, none of us are immune from, I basically work from home and have been doing that for months. So you wake up some days, you're like, ugh, I don't want to do this. Fortunately, I listen to podcasts a lot to keep myself motivated. And I listened to a race car driver once, and he had won a championship last year. And he said, what I learned was the days that I wasn't feeling it, I just tell myself, I'm just going to do the work. I'm just going to do the work. So there are some days when I wake up and I'm feeling it. I'm like, I'm going to go work out and I'm going to crush this thing. And there's other days when I don't feel that. And I say that to myself, I'm just going to do the work. I'm not going to enjoy it. I don't want to do it. I'm just going to put in the work. And without question, when I get it done, I'm glad I did it. Even if I just put in the work and I wasn't feeling it, just forcing yourself to say, it's not going to be the best. I'm not feeling it now, but I'm just going to do it. It can be really impactful.
Now, Bonnie, you mentioned your walking group. Can people join your walking group? How can they find out about that? That sounds to me like accountability too.
Yeah, absolutely. You can join our walking group by just going to our Facebook page, scrolling down to groups, and ask to join. And we have, it's such a great community, and I can't even express how the people that are doing the walking challenge, how much they appreciate the support that we give each other. It really is just a phenomenal group. But if your business is interested in creating your own 200 and 100, we can provide you with a toolkit. We can give you graphics. We can give you encouragement. We can give you certificates to print out after your 30 days, your 100 days. So we're here to help in any way that we can to get that body and mind working together.
So I'm excited. Oh, go ahead, Scott.
I'm looking at this slide right here, trying to substitute. I'm not a chiropractor. I have stayed at a Holiday Inn Express. But one thing that struck me before we left this slide, I was thinking about how important it is, your posture and how you're looking at. I'm looking at the young woman in the top left there, the one where she's looking at her phone in her workout outfit while she's working out. Nicolette told me a story once. The human head weighs like 12 pounds. And so that's like the size of a bowling ball. And if you took a bowling ball and you held it and you put your hands in the hole and you held it straight up, it's pretty easy to hold. But if you put your arm out like this and put that weight of that bowling ball out in front of you, it's very hard to hold. And that's exactly what all of your neck and back muscles have to do every time you're looking at your phone. So every time you see someone look at their phone with their head way down, scold them and tell them to keep their head up.
I remember going by the kids when they would be eating breakfast, and, you'd hit them in the back. Sit up, sit up. It's the same thing. We just all need to do it now that we're looking at cameras like this all the time.
Yeah.
Well, listen, we've talked a little bit about physical. We talked about, our mental health. Now let's talk about finances. For many people, especially right now in Michigan, they're looking at longer still shutdown times of 25%, not being able to open up fully and have your business running that you normally would be at this time. It has now been a year. And the stress of payday for some people it's incomprehensible, Scott. And you run across it every day and educate people every day. How has this year been for you when you're helping people, stay on track and get on track?
It's been an interesting year. There are a lot of people who are quietly still getting their paycheck and things are going well and they didn't get shut down or laid off. But they're all still stressful because none of us knows what tomorrow brings. And then there's everyone else who had a disruption in their financial plan some way or another, and it's made it even more stressful on them. But no matter who we talk to, everything feels a little bit stressful with finances now, and it should be. Finances are very stressful, and it adds a lot to our plate that we already have. So I have about 2 hours worth of material to go over here in the next 12 minutes. So I've been trying to condense it down. And I've also been I have Zoom fatigue myself. I've done lots of them. That's why I'm here standing up. I'm trying some new stuff. So if it doesn't work out, I'm sorry, but I couldn't just do the same thing again. I had to try new stuff. So when I think of wellness, I think of my mind and my body. I work for Consumers Credit Union, so I'm going to focus on the mind part of it. And I think about things that stress me out. And my personal finances always have some level of stress for me. We provide financial wellness here at the credit union. And so I was trying to, first of all, figure out now in 2021, what's a good definition of financial wellness? It could be metrics. It could be that you don't have any debt, or that your retirement's fully funded, or your kid's college is paid for. That's probably not the case for most of us. We don't have any of that. Almost all of us have some kind of debt, and we have a future that we have to think about. And for a lot of us, that stresses us out. And getting our paycheck and feeling stressful, to me, seems like the exact opposite of what I want to do on payday. I want to celebrate and have it be a good day for us. So when I started thinking about financial wellness, and I thought we should put a definition of what financial wellness is. And like I said, I thought about metrics, and that doesn't really work. Everyone has a different idea of what their metric should be and what wellness looks like. So I ended up writing down a bunch of things, and I came up with this. Financial wellness is lowering your financial stress today while improving your financial future. When I put it as simple as that, it doesn't matter who you are or what you're doing. If you can lower your financial stress today while improving your financial future, you are practicing financial wellness, which is great. And the next question is, how do you do that? And for me, that's the very toughest part, is how do you make this happen? Kind of like getting in a workout routine. It's kind of like eating healthy. It's kind of like doing all that things. You have to have some sort of roadmap, and you have to be able to follow that roadmap. The problem is it's not very it's not an easy road, and we don't all take the same path. We all take a different path of what financial wellness means to us. We all make different amounts. We all spend money different ways, but in the end, we'd like to have less financial stress today and in the future. I'm sure
Scott, can I quick ask you? I think one of the things that you have always said that resonates with everybody is the importance of, just like we talked about with our mental health, the importance of making sure that it's okay to talk to people if you are struggling with finances. That it's not shameful to struggle. It's important to let people understand so you can get to a better place and improve the future, like you just talked about.
I 100%, Lynn. I meet with people all the time who are no, everything's fine and everything's not fine. Quick little story. We met once with a group of accountants, and we did a 30-minute session on credit score. that their employer forced them to do. None of the 19 accountants at the program wanted to be there for the 30-minute session, but they sat through it. So we said, we'll be here for 30 minutes, and then we're going to stick around afterwards for 30 minutes and answer any individual questions you might have. 19 of them listened to our 30-minute presentation on understanding and improving credit score. They all left the room, and over the next hour, 17 of the 19 came back in to ask an individual question, just a little bit like, I was wondering, should I close this card? Or how long have I had this open? Or is the 750 a good score? Or whatever it was. We find out that people are embarrassed to talk about their finances, and they want to say, I've got it all set. HR managers of companies like, no, I can't say to my people my finances aren't perfectly set, because they're going to be like, how do you not, you're an executive on the team, how do you not have everything put together? But most of us don't. Most of us don't have it all put together. A lot of people that don't have a solid financial plan are not people making $10 an hour or at minimum wage or struggling. It's people making $40, $50, $60, $70, $80,000 a year. If they are paying their bills on time pretty much, they are doing things, but there's always that residual, am I doing the right thing? When I get my next paycheck, is it enough to cover everything? Should I be saving more for college education or paying off my mortgage or whatever it is? If you don't have a clear plan or a way to move forward, it just adds stress to your life. So that's what we really try to do, is figure out a way to help you reduce that. So I can give you ideas. You hear lots of financial people that give you lots of good ideas of, hey, go out and start a budget and don't spend more than you earn, which sounds wonderful. But then when you go to put it into practice, it can be super difficult. So I decided to really want to do is give everyone a little idea of something that you can do to start managing your finances now and reducing your debt. So I'm only going to take a few minutes. Lynn, give me this thing when I'm out of time. And I'm trying something brand new on Zoom. I've never done a whiteboard on a Zoom call before, but I'm doing it today. So I'll get there in a minute. You all have heard of Dave Ramsey. He is the financial wizard, and his game is, here's what you do. Figure out what all your debts are. You try to eliminate those as quickly as possible. You eat beans and rice and beans. You skip Christmas, you skip birthdays, you sell your car and get a bicycle. You do all that and you pay off your debt so that you can feel less stressed. And I think Dave is 100% right, and that's a great thing to do. The problem is, if you guys have employees or work with other people, his system is take your paycheck and divide it out so that every penny is accounted for. And you put all your money in there and everything's accounted for. You don't have to worry about anything. It's all taken care of, which is great. The problem is, if you're an ADD person like me, things change. You miss a day of work. You take a day of PTO. You don't get paid. There's a holiday pay in there. You used to get overtime and now you don't. Things change. And if you have a Dave Ramsey, I'm accounting for every dollar in my whole financial world. We see people, it's just like joining the gym on January 1st. Everyone's all gung-ho, I'm going to account for everything, I'm going to do it all, every dollar that I earn, and then 2 weeks later something happens or they don't do the envelopes on Friday and it all falls apart. And it's just like going to the gym 8 months later, like, well, I haven't been back to the gym even one time, and their plan fall apart. So we decided in 2021, let's back it up. Let's do like they were suggesting, commit to one thing. Let's start with just a little bit. So here's an idea that you guys can all use yourself. If you have a financial plan that works for you, if you're already a bucketer, you're that type of person, this won't do you any good, but maybe you can show it to your employees. If you're like me, this changed my life, and it turned me from being stressed out on every payday to today. I don't know if this Friday's payday or next Friday's payday because things are set up for me. So here, if you guys want to do something and take some action and not be bored in Zoom, you could get a blank piece of paper and do your own little math with me. I'm going to try to check versions here and do this stuff. And I hope
I just want you to know that that your energy and that whiteboard is proving everything that we just talked about. You're up, you're walking,
I've sat in so many Zoom meetings in the last 11 months. I just sat in my chair. I'm like, I just can't do this anymore. I got to move and write and type stuff, and it just shows up there. I might fall asleep during my own presentation. But okay, here's what I want you to do. If you yourself or you know someone who does not have a budget, they don't have a plan, and they want to start with something, this is easy peasy how we're going to do it. So hopefully I can talk and read at the same time. What I'd like you to do is write down monthly and 2 weeks. Usually people have bills that are due monthly and they get paid every 2 weeks. So that's how we're going to do our math. You can pretend this is your own paycheck and I'll pretend this is someone. So what I wrote down was my take-home pay every 2 weeks is $800. So I fill that in because I know that. That means I get paid $1,600 per month, which is cool. $1,600 a month, $800 every 2 weeks. Next thing I'm going to write down here is all of my bills that are due every month and that affect my life or my credit score. The stuff that really stresses me out. Where I live, my house payment, how I get to work, my car payment, my insurance that I have to pay to keep living, my credit card bills that I have to at least make the minimum payment to keep my credit score going. Write down these things in your life that are important to keep your life going and to maintain and increase your credit score. And we're going to focus just on these bills. We're not going to budget for birthday presents. We're not going to budget for emergencies. We're just going to get you started so that you can budget something and feel some success, and then you can add to it. So in this particular case, Mr. house payment is $600 a month, which is $300 per paycheck. He also has a car payment of $300 a month, insurance of $100 a month, and a credit card of $100 a month. So every 2 weeks, he pay $150, $50, $50, which he takes $800 and it's
Scott, what is that? What did it end up to be?
$550 a month. Now, if you go through this exercise and you stop right here and you're like, this is all I'm doing, this is all budget brain I have for today, that's fine. You know today how much of your paycheck for the whole year you've already committed to spend. That money's gone. You can't use that for emergencies or Christmas presents or birthdays or anything. It's already gone. So just by doing this for yourself, you've already given yourself a little bit of knowledge. How much of my income is already gone before it comes? How much of it do I have to run the rest of my life? Perfect. You've got this here. Now, Dave Ramsey, he would tell you that on Friday, you're going to go cash your paycheck, put $800 into your hand, go home, get out a bunch of envelopes, one that's marked house, one that's marked car, one that's marked insurance, one that's marked card, and you are going to put $300 in your house envelope. You're going to put $150 in your car envelope. You're going to put $50 in your insurance envelope. I did that one time, and then I went to a sweet party, and I pulled out my car envelope and spent it on Saturday morning, and then I did not have it for my car payment, which can be frustrating. So we got this set up. Now I want to. I'm ADD. I can't worry about this every Friday, getting out my paycheck, moving into envelopes, and doing all this stuff. I need it to be a little bit easier for me. So what I did at Consumers Credit Union, I set up a digital envelope inside of my account at work. My digital envelope's account sticker on it. I have another one that says card, insurance, and card. And when my direct deposit from paycheck goes into my checking account, guess what? $300 goes into this envelope. $150 goes into that envelope. $50 into this envelope, and $50 into that envelope. What's left is the amount of my debit card. That's my real money that I have to spend for the next 2 weeks. And I've got this here. So I've got the money put into the envelopes. Now the only other thing that I have to do is take the money out of the envelopes and pay my bill. Well, again, I'm ADD and maybe lazy, so I'm not going to write the check at the end of the month. So I go back to online banking and I say, hey, my house payment's due on the 5th of every month. Please make that payment for me. And so what has happened with my account is my paycheck is deposited. The amount that I need to pay my bills moves over, and then when those bills are due, it's automatically paid.
You don't even see it.
I don't even see it. I set it and I forget it. And now the toughest part of getting something like this started is you got to think 1 month ahead. And I promise you, 78% of you and all of your employees, 78% of us are living paycheck to paycheck, which means you are not planning a month ahead and you don't have 1 month extra bills. You don't have $550 today in February to put into your account to make your March payments, right? That's the only sticking part for people. It's like, well, I need to put $550 in now, and then 2 weeks I put in more, and then 2 weeks I put in more. But it's a perfect time to start this because most of us are going to get a check or two. You get a tax return check, you might get a stimulus check, and a lot of us could take that money and instead of saying, I'm blowing it right now, I'm going to spend it on this. If you knew this number and you could put in 1 month's reserve in each one of these, that means you put the money in this month. In March, your payments are already going to be made from that, and it's going to get refilled by your paycheck, right? So every month, money gets put in, and it gets going out, in and out. One last bonus, and then I'll stop, is if you do this, I'm not the best at math. If you get paid every 2 weeks, you actually put money in you put it in 26 times a year. You get an extra month of money put into that account, which means if you set this up like this and forget it, and you do this in February when you get your stimulus check, next February, your envelopes are all going to have a 1 month buffer in them. You will have built yourself a 1 month buffer to pay all of your bills that are important to maintaining your lifestyle and increasing your credit score. So in closing, if you could take something like this, I believe you could increase your financial wellness by reducing your stress, and also prepare yourself for the future because you've promised yourself that you're going to pay all your bills on time, you're going to stay where you need to live, and you're going to increase your credit score. And with that, I'll stop talking.
Well, Scott, I'll tell you, there's so much on our blog that Scott features about making sure that you try to stay as stress-free as possible with finances. And don't forget, you can always reach out for one-on-one consultations with any of our team members. They are all bright, trained, and really amazing at helping us stay on track. So, Scott, that was awesome. Well, we're going to get a videotape of that, and we'll make sure we put that on our blog. Hey, we've been talking a lot about all of these things that keep coming up about stress in your life. And every single day we realize that, my goodness, it's another day that we're in a pandemic and we are just feeling stuck and not just feeling ourselves and not feeling right. But, many of us lead other teams. We have families that we are supporting. And individually, every single one of us that are on this WebEx today, think a minute by yourself. Just think for yourself for a second and think to yourself, what are you responsible for? And how does that make you feel sometimes? Do you feel a little overwhelmed or sad because you can't see and do as much as you would like to do? Perhaps you're lonely. It has become a lonely time for many people. Amy, with On-Site Wellness, I know that one of the things that we focus on with self-care is the importance of thinking about yourself. It's not selfish to do that.
No. And before I start that, I just have to give a shameless plug to consumers in their financial wellness stuff because I personally, in a class, can't tell you how many years ago, I think Scott was even the one that came in for our team as we're looking at partnerships. And he's like, all right, when everybody get on your phone, we're all going to download Credit Karma and we're going to do all that. And that has saved me. I can't tell you how many times. And as recently as yesterday, when I got a letter in the mail that I apparently had opened a bank account at a bank I did not open a bank account.
Wow.
Yeah. Ooh, little scary, but I could get on Credit Karma. I could see if anything else had happened. Nothing, thank goodness. They shut the account down, so hopefully all is well. But little shameless plug for the class, probably 5+ years ago.
And Amy, just to put in a little different plug, we also now in online banking, you can see your credit score complimentary, real time, all day long. You don't need
awesome.
So we're pretty excited about that.
Yeah. So that was just as Scott's talking, I'm like, yep, do that. And I would say honestly, from a person working with a lot of corporate clients right now, we're getting so many requests for financial wellness. I think the HR folks are really seeing their employees and what they're going through and their struggles. And, you know, I think the idea of getting people to understand that budgeting 101, their credit score, I mean, 401ks are amazing, and yes, we want them to get there, but sometimes we have to start at the base level, and that's so key. So onward. Excellent setting boundaries, and I think the one thing that just keeps coming up with this over and over and over again for me is that concept of you're about ready to take off on an airplane, and that, you know, flight attendant says, before you do anything, if we have a loss of cabin pressure, please put your mask on first and then assist others. And I think this can so apply to everything. We had the worst loss of cabin pressure we could ever imagine, right? Like, we were slammed with a pandemic. We had to stay home. We lost I mean, our world came to a screeching halt. And did we stop to take care of ourselves first? We're so worried about, you know, the kids at school and my parent at home and who can't get out and all of these things. If we can't take care of ourselves first, we're not going to be great for anybody else. And so I really highly, you know, we talk about body measures like physical health, our sleep patterns, the food we're eating, all of those things are key for us to be the best person for others. And that also includes boundaries and schedules and Zoom meetings and all of these things. So really think about, it's not selfish to think about yourself. We oftentimes are givers. And so, you know, what's going to be good for me? Many people might be working from home, so do you have work hours and home hours? Now, that may not work like it used to, like I'm going to start at 8, I'm going to end at 5. It might be I'm starting at 7 and I'm working till 11, and then I got to help my child from 11 to 1, and then I'm getting back on from 1 to 3, and then I got to get a kid from school, and then I got to, you know, so our schedules, but have your time. What time is work time as fast as you can? And I think what's super hard is if you're working from home, how easy is it? We used to do it with our phones, but now how easy is it for my laptop to go to my couch at night? And how easy is it for my laptop to land on the dining room table? Oh, I'll just quick sit down and do this. I'll quick sit down and do this. But what starts to happen is you have this merger and mushiness with time. And I highly encourage you to find that schedule and really build those boundaries around that so you still feel like you're getting respite from the day-to-day as much as you can.
So important, and it really does bring back the, you know, those pictures we saw of how are you doing things in your own home to keep yourself in balance. And I think that's the key, right? The word is balance.
Balance, yeah. And it's going to be different for everybody, obviously, but what's your best balance?
Right. And well, and it is the key that you focus on, Amy, is also saying it's okay for you to say block time in your own calendar for yourself.
Absolutely. You know, that accountability thing we talked about with physical exercise, you know, put that time on your calendar. You know, if you're not going to the gym, then block out a time to take a walk at lunch, block out a time to use your home gym, whatever you're doing, whether that's in the morning, before work, and then don't set a meeting for that time, right? I mean, you got to hold that like a meeting. Hold yourself accountable to that time away. Again, the same thing. I mean, going back to my own personal team, one of the things we said is we are not going to schedule meetings from 12 to 12:30. That's your time. That's your, please take a lunch break. Get away from your computer. Stand up. Go eat lunch. You know, get away from your desk. We used to do that, right? Like we'd meet in the lunchroom and we'd, take a break for lunch, and now we go get our lunch and we sit back at our desk. So give yourself those breaks. Build that into your calendar and leave them as sacred time so we're not using it up with other things.
Well, the one thing that we have found through all of this pandemic in the stress that has been happening in our lives, unfortunately, all of the positives that we're talking about, there is absolute 100% documentation that people are choosing to do things that are making them feel better that might not be beneficial for their health. One of the studies that just came out that was focused on in the Pine Rest webinar at the Econ Club recently focused on alcohol abuse and drug abuse, and the fact that our alcohol consumption in the United States in the past year has gone up to 18. I want to say, I'll get the right number, but off the top of my head, it was like 18 glasses a week. And it's detrimental to our health. But what it is showing is that we're trying to cope in different ways. Pain is in our lives. Vonnie Woodrick is, as I said earlier, the Chief Executive Officer of I Understand Love Heals. I've known Vonnie for many, many years. And she started this organization because of her own personal journey with suicide. And I can tell you that I have known, even in the past month and a half to 2 months, the conversations having with people, whether they are team members and or family members that have reached out to say, I need help. Vonnie, one of the things that you talk about when we face the word suicide, people don't even like to hear, so they kind of like shy away and they don't know what to do. You're really breaking that barrier down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you for noticing that and for having me here today to talk about it, because we have to normalize the conversation, bring it to everyday places, and put it as a part of our wellness plan so we can understand. We talk about, the boundaries and all of these, the physical exercise, and what I have found that we offer so many things that we can do for mental health, but people just don't do it. You have to do it. So that's my message on that. But I have created a definition petition to change the conversation and the narrative surrounding suicide. Suicide is currently defined as someone who intentionally kills themselves. That is a outdated and stigmatized definition. And my proposed definition is the side effect of a mental brain health illness or pain. Pain is the common denominator of all suicides. We don't talk about pain enough. We don't talk about that depression is present in over 90% of suicide. I didn't know that depression had a deadly side effect, and that side effect is suicide. We do not choose depression, just like we do not choose cancer, diabetes, or heart disease. So by changing that conversation, we can talk about where 54% of suicidal thoughts and actions come from. We just got done talking about finances, financial devastation, financial loss, worrying about our jobs. Are we going to be able to pay our bills? Heartbreak. Did we go through a loss? Did we go through a divorce? Anything that can, like for me personally, stress-induced. I had a cardiomyopathy, which was a stress-induced heart attack caused by debilitating stress. We need to recognize what pain can do to us. Bullying. Bullying doesn't just happen in elementary schools and high schools. It happens at home. It happens in the workplace. It happens at the gym. We need to recognize that the person that's doing the bullying really has some deep-seated issues that they need to work through. And we cannot take bullying in the workplace. It has to be addressed. It has to be talked about, because it can cause those suicidal thoughts and actions. And when we're seeing the ages 10 years old to 34, suicide is the second leading cause of death. And a lot of those, especially for those young deaths, are caused by bullying. Isolation. We are home alone. We are feeling more lonely. We don't have people to talk to. We don't want to share. Physical pain. I just had someone thought that they were diagnosed with cancer. They weren't, but they went through that pain of, I would rather die than go through cancer and cancer treatment. Physical illnesses, other illnesses can bring suicidal thoughts or actions. Any type of illness can as well. We don't talk about it that way. We talk about, like Lynn said, we back away. We don't want to talk about it. Well, guess what? Every single one of us has experienced one of these things that's listed here. Any single one of us can be at risk. So then it's up to us. It's up to us to ask our coworker that's going through a divorce, are you okay? You want to talk about it? I'm here. But knowing that someone lost their job, how can I help you? What can we do for you? Let me get you in touch with Consumers Credit Union. Let's make a plan. All of those things are so imperative to understand, change the narrative regarding suicide, mental brain. We are really focusing on trying to change mental health to brain health illnesses, just like heart disease is our heart, lung cancer is our lung, depression, mental health illnesses, addiction are all a brain health illness.
Well, Bonnie, I know that people, number one, thank you, because it is a conversation that we have to have. We are open for chat. Anybody who has any questions for any of the panel members, please feel free to give us a chat. We would love to answer those questions now. You know, one of the things that I think, what are you supposed to do? You know, I think they're a little bit reticent of saying, I want to help you, because they don't know if they're going to make things worse. Is that a common concern, Bonnie?
Yeah, you know, I think that people are afraid of it. You know, I mean, suicide is a dark, scary subject if we allow it to be. And one of the things when we change the way we talk about it is, and I understand, we don't say the word kill, like, oh, my husband killed himself. And in our definition petition, I'm petitioning that we talk about the illness rather than the act. So let's say my husband died of depression, and we can talk about the signs and the symptoms of his illness, rather than the number one asked question after someone dies is, how did he do it? Why do we have to ask that question? Why do we have to know? Why do you have to bring me to that moment? So the way we talk, definitely commit. We don't use the word commit. My husband didn't commit a crime. Up until 1964, suicide was deemed a crime. You know, we take that out. My husband died of depression. My friend died of alcoholism. We talk about the illness. That is how we're going to change it. And yes, Lynn, to answer your question, people are afraid of it.
Well, it has been a just amazing conversation today, and I know that I love the fact that when we end, I just feel like I've got so many tips myself. I learned myself all of the things that we really do need to be talking about. It isn't we're not done with COVID. We're not finished. We want to be, don't we? Don't we all have the hope that we are at the point in time that life's going to go back to normal? I love that every single person today, Nicolette, Bonnie, Amy, Scott, you all talked about how important it is to be okay with yourself and reach out for help when you need it, which is so important. So important. How about we have one last comment from each one of you? Scott, why don't we start with you?
Yeah, it was actually, my mind went totally away from financial wellness and people wellness. So I was listening to Bonnie talk in December. I had a friend of a friend die, pass away. Bonnie, I can't even say it the right way. I'm still a little upset about it. I have a question more than a comment, and I hope you can help me with this. I know people, I see people that are close to me that I feel like things are not going well with them. I'm afraid to ask them and have them say things aren't going well because I don't know what to do after that. Can you help me a little bit? Like if I say, hey, It's like things aren't going well, and they're like, they aren't. Really, they aren't. I'm afraid of that.
You know, I'm really glad that you asked that question because there was a time when I was not doing well, and I was telling my friend, they would say, "How are you?" And I'd say, "You know, I'm not doing really well." And you know what they would do? They'd say, "Yeah, but you know what? I was going through this, and I felt like that," and I felt really dismissed because they really changed the conversation and didn't really want to know really how was I. And I think that the best thing that you can do is just ask the question. What is really bothering you? Do you need someone to talk to? Maybe I'm not the person that can help you, but let's find somebody that can. And on our website, we have tons of resources, tons of information under our resources and our downloads that really will help with break that conversation. And you know what I find that's most interesting too is that oftentimes when you share your story and you share something that you have going on, you become connected with someone that you weren't connected with before because they were able to relate to you on a whole different level, and it really opens up a conversation. So, but thank you for asking that question.
Thank you. Now I'll take the last comment. I will be done. I always think of my dad as being a pretty smart person, and I take his advice a lot. When I'm listening to this seminar, I'm going to say his advice again. It was always, if you're feeling anxious or stressed, take action, is what he'd always say to me. If you're feeling anxious or stressed, take action. And I would say that would be my comment today. If you're stressed about your paycheck, take action. If you're stressed about your health, decide that you're going to take some action. And I think you'll feel better because you feel like you're more empowered and in control if you just decide you're going to take some action, even if it doesn't completely solve the problem. Just take that right step, makes you feel more in control. And in my experience, it's helped me feel a little bit better.
Awesome. Amy, what are your thoughts?
Lots of thoughts, I think. I mean, I loved what Scott just said about take action. I think the thing that keeps coming back to me is everyone around us is, well, let me back up. I read something early on, so we're going to say a year, 9-10 months ago about, we're in the middle of this pandemic and, somebody says, everybody keeps commenting, we're all in the same storm. Well, that's true. We are all in the same storm, but we're all in separate boats. And we're all dealing with this a little differently, and we're all having different struggles. I think, Lynn, you even mentioned, somebody might be lonely because maybe they're alone. Other people are struggling because now everybody's home, and that might cause issues, or, whether serious or not. And I think the thing that I have been trying really hard to do over the course of the last year is to not only have grace with myself and how I'm feeling and dealing with this as we, from day to day, but just really remember that not everybody's experiencing this the way you are. So, kind of like Bonnie said, it's like, how are you? And how, is there anything I can do for you, or just listen and be there, right? And I think part of it is just, we didn't talk about it here, but a lot about just recognizing emotions and feeling them, like not trying to put them away, but actually experience those emotions and try to come out on the other side so that, hopefully someday, we can learn from this last year and become better people because of it. Because quite honestly, but at the same time, it's like Scott said, if you're up against something, what little step can you take? What little thing can you do? The gyms are closed, so what can we do? And now they're open, but if you're not comfortable there, what are you going to do? I can't go out to eat. Okay, well, maybe you can create some fun foods at home. Whatever it is, little steps to just bring joy and help along the way.
Well, and Amy, I think you made such a good point about, what it is that you're feeling. I probably am the most positive person. I just always am. I have been blessed with that gene. But it's the first time in my life that there's anxiety, like where I really wake up in the morning and wonder what, when will we get back to where we are? And dealing with that is something I think that for me has been very, trying to do the things like downloading music that is more soothing for me, being more conscientious of no drama, trying really hard to keep that, but it is something that you have to do for yourself, and Amy, I really appreciate you talking about it. Bonnie, some last words before we say so long to a wonderful self-care presentation.
Yeah. Well, I think that acceptance is key. I think that we need to accept that where we're at. I think that we've all probably come a long way from a year ago. I think it's extremely important that we find ways to express gratitude throughout the day, even if it's just the sun that's shining. We have to recognize gratitude. I think a daily affirmation, in 21 days, you can change your brain thoughts. I tell myself I'm wonderful and amazing every day. Tell yourself you're wonderful and amazing every day, or find something for you. And the last thing that I want to leave everyone with is that you don't have to be alone. If you're struggling, resource and help is available. Don't hesitate to reach out to a friend, go to a doctor, go to the emergency room, or call the 1-800-273-TALK helpline that's available 24/7.
That's awesome, Bonnie. Well, all I can say is Scott, Amy, Bonnie, Dr. Nicolette, you are all wonderful and amazing, and we really thank you. Adrienne, I'd also like to, she's behind the scenes. Adrienne Marks is our executive producer back there making all the bells and whistles happen. So, Adrienne, thank you so much for all that you do for us. Onsite Wellness, thank you so much for being our partner in this wonderful care series. Next week, we're going to focus on team care, and that is, who are you leading in your family, in your work environment? Maybe it's even a kids hockey group that might get to practice with their masks on. All of the things that you do on a day-to-day basis that bring team into play, and how to make sure that we keep our own leadership skills so that we can help our teams. We will be sending out the link to this webinar. We'll also be showcasing this on podcast in the next 2 weeks. And then join us for Team Care on March 2nd, consumercu.org/events. You can sign up, and please share with your friends. We'd love it if more people joined us. We had a great turnout today, and we really thank you very much.